everyone, welcome to Carly's Creative Clay. I'm Carly. It's nice to see you all here. It's been a long week, but what are we? We're a week before Christmas. So I'm going to start out by saying to you all that I won't be live streaming next week, because next week is actually Boxing Day and I've actually got somewhere I'm going to go. Finally, I've got an actual going out day for the year. So my next stream will be back on the 2nd of January. So I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and New Year. Get everything you want and have lots of fun. What I've got in front of me is my item of the week. Every week I show something that's for sale in my shop, so you can get a better look at it on camera rather than just in a photograph, and I talk about it for a very short period of time. This is £30. There's 2 of them that I made, and I'm only ever going to make the 2. I made it around Gay Pride. It was around that period of time, and I wanted to use the colours from the Gay Pride rainbow, but do it in a completely different way. So I made this cane up with the different lumps of colour in between black, and it goes all the way around, and obviously is a glass vase. So very colourful. Very pleased with this. But yes, my item of the week. Available to buy in my Etsy shop. The link's in the top corner. Right, I'm just going to put this down out the way. I still have this cough. I got a feeling it's staying with me for the rest of my life, the way it's going. But anyway, to the dragon. Right, last week I said I would mount it on a tray, the vase, so that with tin foil, so that it doesn't roll around. And if you can see, I've put up the front this is one large bit of tin foil with a dip in it. Here, I pick it up so you can see better. One large bit of tin foil with a dip, then 2 small sticks, and then something at the end to keep it in size. Now, the reason why I use such a big amount is because that towel goes underneath there. You don't want to squash it. So, you can put your vase down and none of the clay is actually being squashed. I mounted it on the vase, so I'll give you a bit of a spin around so you can have a look. Now, it's not stuck really well. If I picked that up, it would hold for a little bit and then probably fall off. So I'm going to bake it on its side. I don't expect it to stay attached. The whole idea of baking it on the vase is so that I get the right shapes for the bits that touch the vase so that they're a secure fit. So you bake it in place, and then when you remove it and glue it back on, you get a better chance of it looking very good, rather than if you try and guess and then bake it and it can shift in the oven and you end up with it sticking out at odd angles.
Evil Monkey says, geez, that cough has lasted ages. Surprised it doesn't have its own postcode by now.
I know. It's about to get charged rent and put on the housework rota, I tell you.
You've had your hair done too. Looks good.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I got it cut last week. Literally last Wednesday. So
4D Waves.
Hi, 4D Waves back. So, yeah. It took a bit of fiddling to get it all the limbs on and get it laying where I wanted it.
David Hedgehog wants to know, is this taking longer than usual, or is this how many hours you put into a usual project?
Right. In a way, it's taking longer because I'm not making it in between videos. Well, I am doing a bit here and there, like I made the scales off video and I placed it off video, but other than that, normally when I make these sorts of big projects, every day that I'm well enough to clay, which isn't every day, and it's not a full day, I manage about a couple of hours on the days that I do it, but I would plough through and have had this probably finished after about a week, whereas we're a month. So, but the process is the same. It takes time to make and shape all the scales and place it all on. Everything that I'm doing here, I do when I am on my own, and I don't batch make anything this big, so I haven't got 4 vases lined up that I can make each bit turn out 4 at once. It is quicker if you're making multiples of something to make a production line up, but I only ever do that with charms and Christmas tree decorations and bookmarks and sometimes my cane bowls. You see, if you have a look in my Etsy shop, it's pretty full. The list is long. So, we're going to start working on the head.
Fairy Hedgehog says so it's the same number of hours.
Same number of hours. Yeah, it's just been dragged out over a longer period. Right. I'm going to face the head towards me, but this is the neck. And if you can see, there is a spike for the head to go on through the neck that we put in with florist wire. That's to help secure it. Right, make sure I put this down without squashing the towel. And I'm going to move it out the way for a second because it's taking up the space I need to make the head. Right, now, do you remember we made a tinfoil ball for the body? Because I explained if it's clay all the way through, it's hard to get the centre of it to the 110 degrees Celsius that you need for the clay to turn from soft into hard. So we use tin foil in the centre of thick pieces. If you see the word armature used on a piece of work that you're buying, what that means is any material used on the internal for a support or for a structural reason. So your skeleton is a natural armature. Right, so having said that, where I'm going with this is we need to make a tinfoil ball for the head. So I started out sheet about that big, scrunched it in, and to a rough round shape. I haven't compacted it as tight as possible because we don't need to have it that dense, and it's harder to push the spike through if the tin foil is too compact. So you line up the ball with the neck. Now remember, this isn't the finished size of the head, this is just the bit that's going on the inside. So you're gonna have at least several centimeters of extra snout and things like that, so you want it on the smaller side. So like that. Now there are two ways you can go with this. You need to get rid of all these sharp points, because the moment you try and cover it in clay, they will poke through the soft clay and you'll end up with tinfoil sticking through. You can either use your glass chopping board and just rub it. Rub the points until it's smooth. It doesn't take as long as you think it would. I mean, I've just done that bit, and can you see how it's a lot more smoother? The other option, sorry, let's do a bigger area and then I'll hold it up to the camera. Right.
Try and focus
there we go. That
Can't really see
as
it.
opposed to that. Can you see the spikiness of that? All that would come through the clay. So if you want to sit there, you can rub it so that all the sharp edges are out. Or second alternative, masking tape. Cover it in a layer of masking tape. And I find personally that is the better option, because I find that clay bonds to masking tape a lot easier than it bonds to tin foil. And so I bulk buy masking tape. My stockist must wonder what I'm up to with it, because I go through probably a roll a month at least. So yeah, you don't have to be neat and tidy. This isn't going to be seen on the outside. You just want to make sure that your tin foil's covered. I have a word of warning on this. I have made an armature, covered it in masking tape, then gone to bed for the night, got up the next day and found that half of the masking tape came unstuck. You kind of need to cover it masking tape and then use it. If you leave it to sit, the glue on the stuff is not good enough really to hold for massive lengths of time. The clay will hold it on. Right, I'm just smoothing it out, making sure it's all stuck. Right, that's a good head armature. Move my masking tape out of the way. Now, although I'm going to cover the head in scowls, because it's liable that I'm going to have patches where it's not so well covered, I'm going to make the head out of purple. Okay, so you condition up your clay, bring it out into long sticks. I'm not sure I'm going to even need that much right now. Let's do that. The one thing I'm not very good at is telling you all the weight of clay and exact amounts of things. I've learnt really to do it all by eye, so I'm not very good at measuring things, which is why I'm always impressed with people who are able to give exact scale dimensions.
Fairy Hedgehog says, does it match your t-shirt? I love the dragon on your t-shirt.
Oh, thank you. It's probably actually going to have a different face shape to that. And yeah, it's there are many different face shapes for dragons, and I've got one that I normally do, which I'll just show you. One second. Oh. It's that kind of rounded basic muzzle. Oh, just moving my pillow. I'm going to try and give it a bit more of a hooked nose, I think, on this one. I've started doing dragons that way recently. I've done 2 that way, and I quite like it. So I'm going to attempt that on this to do a more hooked nose. I'm also going to attempt to do an open mouth, which is something that I haven't done before because it is a lot more complicated. On a closed mouth, you can just literally drag a pin tool and make a mouth line across the muzzle and it's done. With an open mouth, you need to make it so that the bottom jaw is structurally stable on how it's attached to the rest of the skull, and that it still lays correct. And that can be on the complicated side. And then you've got teeth and tongue to worry about.
Fairy Hedgehog says, have you ever done a Chinese dragon?
I've not done a Chinese dragon. I'm not that keen on the look, but mainly it's a practical problem. They have a lot of long whiskers and trailing streamy bits from them, and those are really easy to snap off. So I try to make it so that the things that I make are harder to break, really. And I can imagine, yeah, I may go there one day once I get better at making very fine elements that don't break. Some people are. Now, the other problem I have with this is I use Fimo. There are lots of brands of polymer clay, but the two top ones are Fimo and Sculpey. Sculpey does a range of different types of polymer clay, and one of the ones it does is a very flexible one. So you can literally make a very thin sheet once it's baked properly and bend it right over on itself. People make little snap bands with it, sort of, they're like long strips, and you hit it against your wrist and it curves round into a bracelet. Right, that's pretty soft.
So snapping bits off isn't a good thing.
No, it happens. I have to mend clay bits now and then. Luckily, you can pretty easily. The problem comes once you've varnished it, because varnish and glue don't like to go through the oven. I haven't tried baking something that's got 2-part epoxy or varnish on, but I can't imagine it's going to turn out well. I think we'll probably end up with a house that massively stinks and me not being popular. So I really, all in all, don't go there. Right, I'm just covering the ball with some clay. Now let's bring that up a bit. There we go. That's better. It's a little bit thick, so I'm just bringing it around so it's smaller. You've got to make sure you don't trap air bubbles.
Charlie Star suggests you could use the 3D pen to do the whiskery bits, and I mentioned that it had broken.
3D pens, if you've ever actually felt something made from them, what they make is really fragile. The plastic that comes out of it is very fine and very brittle. I
Charlie Star says fair enough.
Don't rate it. I think it's really amazing and it's really pretty, the stuff it can make, but it ain't durable. And I'm too clumsy to have something that fragile around me. Really? I mean, I broke the 3D pen, which is far more durable than the things a pen makes, put it that way. Right, I'm going to roll it in my hands and on the board to get rid of all these crease lines. So it just looks like a purple ball. The other good thing about including an armature in with your clay is the subject of weight. Now, polymer clay is actually not that heavy. It's far lighter than other ceramics. But because I'm putting it on the side of a vase, I don't want it to be very heavy because I don't want it to topple forward. So I want to do everything I can to save on weight, and tinfoil weighs less than polymer clay.
Charlie Star says they didn't realise it was so brittle.
It's still fun, and if you layer it up and make a proper sculpture, it's not. but for sort of individual whiskers it really can be. But that might have been the 3D pen I got. I got one that was right back in the days when it was on crowdfunding. Was it yeah, it was crowdfunding. Right.
Fair Hedgehog asks, are you going to give it a stone egg to balance the other side, like one of your other...
It's a good idea. I do that. Sorry, I'm drinking a lot. I've got sore throat. How I decide is I bake it, and then I see whether it will stand upright. If it starts to tilt, then I know that I need to make a counterbalance on the other side. So that will be part of the end assessment. Right, top of the head. That looks... Let's get this right. Whoop, don't roll. That looks like a good top of the head. Yeah? Now, we're going to have to start working on some muzzle. Now, what I do is I get a...
Charlie Star says there's apparently some flexible stuff. I'm assuming they mean for 3D pens.
Probably. It's moved on a lot since I got the pen and the bits for it.
If we got a new one, it would be up to date.
Yeah. I got it before I got into polymer clay, when I was trying to find the craft that was right for me. And it wasn't as right for me as clay, and I got very one track minded with it. Right, I'm adding a bit of clay. This is going to shape into the top muzzle. I know it looks like a snowman at the moment. It literally doesn't matter where you add that because you're on a ball. So if you want it to be lower down the face, you can do that. Higher, see, it don't matter. So the important bit is add a small ball, and then you're going to go around and you're going to join the edges by smoothing it either with your finger, or you can use a tool if you'd like, but I find my hands are my best tool by far. That's the case with most artists. Doesn't matter that you're misshaping the ball and it's making it kind of flat on one side. That's fine. All can be reshaped once it's all been joined on. Okay? When I first... Sorry.
Asks, I know you've used varnish, but have you ever used polishing papers or know of anyone who has, or could you recommend them?
Yes. Polishing is actually even more popular than varnishing. I don't polish as much because I've got a lot of problems with my arms, and it does take a bit. Unless you get a bench grinder, the little tool with the polishing thing. There are sets of polishing... Where are we? I've got a sanding set where it's microfiber pads, and they're even sold as polymer clay polishing sets. I will show you next live stream because it's going to be really boring me hunting for stuff. Where I've moved into a new room, I haven't memorised where all my kit is just yet. I suspect I know where that is, but actually, let me have one look, and if it's not there, then I will move on. No. Dang. Yeah, it's not where I thought it was. Nope, can't show you. Sorry people. But yes, you go from a thick grit, which the coarser the grit of sandpaper, the smaller the number. And you work your way from the coarsest grit down to the finest grit. And then afterwards, they recommend you use a pair of old jeans. Denim shines up clay very well. I went to a charity shop and got a set of old jeans from them for 50p because they were ripped up and weren't good for wearing. But I'm not using them for wearing, I'm using them for polishing. They last forever. But you can get the bench grinders that will do it for you, and there's tutorials on how to use them. Right, so we've now got a...
Audie had never heard of polishing papers, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I wish I could find my microfiber set. Where are we?
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It really isn't. But yes, you can polish it up to a massively high shine. It can end up looking like marble. It's incredible. It just takes a bit of work. But once it's done, it's done. Right.
Evil Monkey says thank you. That was awesomely informative.
Thank you. Great. I'm glad I was helpful. Any questions, I'm happy to give it a go at answering. Right. So I've got a muzzle. Now, we know that the eyes are higher up than the nose. So I'm just pushing it down a bit. And pushing it in because I'm going to try and make it look less like a nose stuck out and more like a teardrop shape. So it's coming from the side of the head. So you can have a fiddle around. And the good thing about your clay is it can move into the shape you want it. And once I've got it where I want, I'm going to bring it in and into a point. Like that. That crease line ain't right. There we go. So I'm just bringing the chin down like that. So really with this stage there's not a lot I can instruct you with other than fiddle with it and don't get frustrated, and if it cracks or don't go how you want first time, you can patch things up, take it off, move it, change it for a bigger block. I know I just made that look really simple, that I just went doot 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 done. I've made a lot of dragons. Don't be disheartened if you can't do it immediately. Okay, now where are we? That will be the head like that. Right, so we've got a nose in place. We got that. Right, now bottom jaw. Gonna take some more clay, a smaller bit this time. Probably use your head to get a size guide for what you want. Actually, I think it will look better if I make a dip in that like this, so it looks more like an open mouth jaw. Trust me, it'll work out. There we go. Right, bottom jaw.
Evil Monkey says it currently reminds me of a dark crystal scalesis in that shape.
Yeah, it is a bit. Right, I rolled out in a little ball, and then we're going to flatten it to a bit of a semicircle. Use your thumb or your finger or something so that you can bring the edges up a bit to make it. How do I explain this? Right, you've got a dent in the middle and the sides of the circle are coming up around your finger, so it's like a little cup. Yeah, because the jaw, you will see you need to have it so that there's the bottom and it comes up the side.
4D says they love the dark crystal film.
They're talking about making another one or a TV series or something like that. I saw Netflix was talking about this. I think I want a bit of a point to my jaw, so I'm shaping that in now. I've got some tools that help me with this, but you can use things around your house. The other thing is, when you're looking at tools for your sculpting, you don't just have to look for polymer clay tools. You've got soap working tools. fondant, chocolate making tools, dental tools, traditional clay tools. There are many other crafts where you can use the tools provided for their people in your own craft. You don't, if just because the name ain't in the title. Right, I'm attaching that bottom bit and then smoothing out that join line with my finger. So you start at the edge and you just go around, smooth it in. We'll get a chin shape in a minute, don't worry, we're just attaching now. So
Evil Monkey says the sequel's coming out on Netflix. They have assigned a few actors, and 4D says they're thinking of redoing the film in CGI, but it won't be the same as the amazing puppets of Frank Oz and Jim Henson.
I know, I pretty much loved everything Jim Henson has been involved with. It's a shame that he died. He was very good at what he did. Right, can you see I've now got that sort of shape with an open mouth. I pointed the chin out and pulled it forward and did a bit of fiddling and changed the shape of the face, and I can't stress it enough. Fiddle. It's fine. Right, so we got that far. We got a head. Yeah? Now, we're going to go for eyes. I think I want to move that down just a bit more and bring the head back up a bit more so I've got some room for eyes. Right, whilst I'm doing that, what I need to talk to you about is eyes on animals. If you are making a predator, they have forward facing eyes. So at the front of the head, like humans do. If you're making a prey species, you'll find their eyes are on the side of their head. So your cow, your sheep and all that, they right round the side. It gives them a wider field of vision, but what they have as a problem is they usually have a blind spot directly in front of them, which is no good for hunting. But a prey species, if your predator's that close, you're in trouble anyway. So make sure you put your eyes in the right place. I'm going to bring you into a better point. There we go. And bring you through. Right, better stop fiddling with that or I'm going to bore the life out of you.
Harry Hedgehog asks, are dragons predator or prey? Can you have vegetarian dragons?
Well, if they're mythical, then you can have literally anything you want. What am I looking for? This is what I'm looking for. Bottle. Right. Technically, you can have whatever you want if they're a mythical species. I mean, do you remember Count Duckula, the vegetarian vampire? It's as big as your imagination, I suppose. But most people kind of expect their dragon to be meat-eating, angry little animals.
4D says, dragons are the top of the food chain if you ask me. Wings, fire, sharp teeth, sod that.
Yeah.
And then Fairy Hedgehog says, I loved Count Duckula.
I loved Count Duckula. I love David Jason's childhood stuff. He did Danger Mouse, and he was it Toad in Wind in the Willows, and Count Duckula. And I think he's done a few others that don't come to mind, but that lot was my childhood staple. So I've used one of my ball tools. Now I've got a range of ball tools. These are cake decorating tools. Can you see the little ball at this is the bigger one, little ball end of a stick, and they go right down to really, really tiny. Let me find one of my smaller ones.
Monkey says BFG.
Yes, BFG, that was him as well. See how small that goes down to.
Hold on, you want me to focus?
Oop, there we go. Is that better? So really, really tiny ball tools. So they are worth their weight in gold for smoothing out little bits that are hard to get to. But I use the bigger ones to make eye sockets. So that's what you saw me do. I pushed in. Now if you pull back out, you can get the clay stuck to the ball tool and misshape it. So I push it in and I do a little twizzle and then pull it out. Okay? So we are now looking more like a face. We're going to work on putting some eyes on this dude. Now, I'm going to get to my favourite things. My box of teeth and my box of eyes. I'll bring that up to the camera so you can see it. I love my box of eyes. I've made them all. I showed you in a previous video how to make them. I think I'm going to go for blue with this dragon. I think it's more, it matches in better than the golds and the reds and the greens.
Evil Monkey says, you have veggie dinosaurs. I'd like to believe you can have as many options in dragons as dinosaurs. Also, how cool would a Triceratops with wings look?
Triceratops with wings. That might have to be a future make.
That's a good point. Also, nice eyes. Evil Monkey says, I love your box of eyes too. Fair Hedgehog says, it's a bit creepy. And Evil Monkey says, I need a box of eyes.
I tell you what is creepy. I heard a story from my dad of someone that he used to know had a guest toilet that what they did was they cut out pictures of eyes from magazines and all over the place. Wherever they could find a picture of eyes, they got it, and they literally covered the bathroom walls and ceiling and floors in eyes. They never used it. That was the guest bathroom. Right. I pre-baked these. I made them from Sculpey because Sculpey bakes at a higher temperature than Fimo. I did that because clay goes softer before it goes harder when it hits its curing temperature. And I didn't want to reach the curing temperature for the eyes and the teeth. So, what you're going to do is you're going to have a fiddle and you're going to put your eyes in place. Now, I do advise you use a pointy tool or a pokey tool of some description. Even if you just get a needle at your sewing box. But as you can see, when you put them in, they want to look up to the ceiling, which isn't great. You want to angle them down, and it's hard to do that with your fingers. So I find
4D says, I need a box of eyes. Fair Hedgehog says, that's clever.
Yeah.
I'm referring to what you're doing with the
right, you
clay.
don't want them too stuck out. So there we go, that's better. Get your eyeball in a position that you want it, face in a direction that you want it, because you don't want an eye. I've already got an eye that wanders all over the place, and I know it's not the most photogenic thing in the world. So we don't want this for my little drag. Oops, I poked a hole in it. There we go, it's gone. Yeah, so no wandering eyes.
Using the hotter clay is what I meant was clever.
Oh, yes. Most of these ideas, they're not my ideas. I stand on the shoulder of other people. And most of them are giants. Some of them are just really lucky they stumbled on something. But most of them are giants. Right. That needs to go in a bit because it's not looking upright. There we go. What do you reckon? I know it looks like a creepy crow. A creepy purple startled crow at the moment.
The Hedgehog says, and now you're a giant too.
Yay, thank you. I'm getting there.
Like a startled crow.
It does look like a startled crow. Right. So, what we need to do is get some teeth in it and then start covering it in scales. Because the scales are going to make a difference. Now, it's up to you whether you continue the tummy pattern up under the chin, or whether you bring the scales all the way down under the chin as well. I think I'm gonna put the green in. So if I get my green cane, here we are. That's going to be the next job once I've got some teeth in its mouth.
Hedgehog and Charlie's staff both say it looks good.
It's a good start. It's getting covered. So, now I've got some very big sort of snake teeth shape. I'm wondering whether they're going to be too big for that. I think they are. So, have I got the next size? I do. I have the next size down. And if not, we can always just go for some just spiky normal little teeth. So I always try and put the canines in first, because then you can get them where you want and position the other teeth around them. So
Fairy Hedgehog says boxes of teeth and eyes. How creepy is that?
it depends on if you're making models or things. I know people who focus on doll's house making, and they've got boxes of limbs and all sorts of things. So, right, we've got, let's make sure they're pushed in properly, a couple of little canines in the mouth. So that's on the face. Let's go up to the camera there. See?
Do you want me to focus it?
There you go, that'll do. So we're down to that. Now, I am going to put in a few little sharp teeth. They look pretty long, but you're going to embed them in quite a way to get them to hold. So I know that might seem a bit long to be putting teeth in. I could do this at the end, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just adding teeth in. Now, this is a very fiddly job. You might want to use tweezers. But yeah, I think I might do that bit off camera because it's going to be a bit of a long thing to watch. Okay? But yeah, so that's the teeth. And that'll be done next week. Now, we're going to do some scale covering.
What's your item that has the most teeth?
This will be, I generally don't do teeth on things because they're very fiddly to get in and to get them to hold without having to take them out and re-glue them. So, first thing we're going to do along the bottom is a continuation of the tummy scales.
Fairy Hedgehog says you did shark teeth?
I did do shark teeth, you're right, I forgot about that. I've did a white shark. No, he's downstairs. I haven't got him up with me. But yes, I did do a white shark. Right, what direction are the colours on the underscale? Blue to green. So we're going that way. So line up your jaw in front of you. You don't want a wonky neck. Start at the bottom. Like that. We're going to cut stripes and put them in place like we did with the last one.
Fairy Hedgehog said it had millions of teeth, and then Charlie Star said that shark was amazing.
Thank you. I don't think I've got it up on my shelf, do I? Nope. Maybe I'll make that the item of the week next week. Well, next week is Christmas. The next week I show. And I will show off that shark. Because there was some complications to it. But some of the things I thought would be really hard weren't. And some of the things I thought would be really easy weren't. So it was a very interesting make. But what I made, it was a white shark on a rock. So the head's coming out of water. I went on holiday and it was just to somewhere coastal in the UK. And I managed to make one of the days a beach day. And I took 4 or 5 rocks. I know there are people that strip out the beach of all their stuff and it's not good. But I made sure I only took ones that I knew that I would use in clay projects. And I only took a few of them. And yeah, it looked really nice. It worked out. So, can you see I'm just putting the scales through to up to the tip of the jaw. Now I'm cutting different size thickness slices of that cane that I showed you how to do the square one. That one. If you need it to be a longer slice, if you need it to be a longer strip, you cut a thicker slice and you just pinch and pull outwards. Okay? To the size that you want, and just put it in place. Now, I meant to be going inwards, so I made that a little too wide, so I just push on it and bring it, sometimes putting it on the glass so that you don't distort the underneath. You can shrink it back down by pushing on it. See? Smaller. So build that up. I have had a pretty long week because I've been struggling with viruses. It seems to be a Christmas tradition of mine to come down with something god awful. And it happens a whole lot. I think the last 9 years I've been ill. One of the years I was in hospital. Literally hospital on Christmas Day. That was not fun. And they were so proud of the meal they brought round, and it was just terrible. So, but they made it look pretty, even if it didn't taste nice. I suppose that's something. Make sure that you, when you put your blade down, you're putting it sharp side facing away from you. And you check that you have the blade, the sharp side facing down before you try to use your blade. I have pushed on blades where the sharp side is facing up. It doesn't work out well. I mean, it's not a you're going to get badly cut and rushed to hospital, but I sometimes do get slightly cut, like a paper cut sort of height, before I realise that actually I've done something really stupid. So, and turn it up the right way. Some people put little dots of clay in the corner and then bake it so that you can see it at a glance. But I find that I have enough projects where I use the whole length of the blade. Whoops, that's not sharp side away from me. There we go. You do get into the habit, it does happen, even though you can wind up breaking it when you're not concentrating. Right. Even though I'm using the same colour and doing the same thing, after this one I'm going to wipe my hands. The reason is your fingers get sticky and the clay can cling to it when you're trying to make it stick to something else. So when you're at that stage, just a bit of kitchen roll, give your fingers a quick wipe, and you can get back to it. I do keep wet wipes because sometimes you need to clean your hands down and you really can't be bothered to go through to the bathroom. So keeping some wet wipes to hand can be really useful. It's amazing how quickly you build up kit. I started out with a rolling pin, a tray that I worked from my lap, and it's built into several shelves worth of stuff that I wound up having to get insurance for. I know they're business tools, but there we go. Right, this last one is going to be a very thin slice and only half because I'm just coming up to the tip. Now if I want to get that slice into a triangle, just pinch at the tips, fold it under. You're at that right triangle shape again. Sorry, there you go. Yeah? Now, that is because, can you see the tip of the chin, which is there, needs to have an ending bit of clay. So, there we go. That's the underside. So when that gets put on, this will attach in so it looks like that clay's continuing through from the belly. So now we're gonna
4D says
go
they
for
already
scales.
have 8 drawers for clay and resin.
It's amazing. I don't understand how people have the kit for 15 different crafts. They must own a warehouse, because I own the stuff for one craft and it's everywhere. Right, if you remember in previous episodes, I made up a whole lot of scales, like a ridiculous amount. It was something like 700. So, I gotta make more scales. Woo! I can just go through and add them. Now, talking from experience here, I have done this. I've added all the scales and then went to go put it onto the head and found that the head scales were in the wrong direction for the body. So do check this. So, like that, you're facing your rounded bit with this going backwards. So you're going to build on top of the pointed end, not the flat end. So you need to start at the back going forwards. Does that make sense?
Charlie Star says, I do. My house is currently filled with art and craft stuff ready to go to my studio eventually. And 4D says, I know I was going to stick with just clay, but I like resin too much too.
No. Should
Charlie
I?
says,
Yeah, let's build up
got
around
more
it.
than 15 different crafts.
Yeah. Well, I know some tools are interchangeable. Wrong
I
direction.
think that's how you can do it, if you
That way round.
can use
Yes.
tools for 2
Right.
crafts.
So just pick a place to start and just start layering them up. It doesn't matter so much if they're in straight lines because you're going round in a circle. Now, remember where you're going to attach. I find it can be useful to get your needle tool, line up where you think you're going to have your head hole, and just make a little hole there, just so you can see where you're planning to put it. It doesn't matter if scales end up on the underside of the join, it still looks right.
Charlie Star says a lot of stuff have multi-craft purposes.
So, let's see, how much of the... Right, let's get you. Try not to make you fall. So I'm going to support it. Now, you're going to go on like this. I might put it on and then cover it in scales. I think that might be the best thing to do. So I'm just supporting its back on the sides of the face. So I'm not squashing anything. I'm putting it in place, and then I'm going to bring the bottom jaw and lay that down towards the glass. Now, you would come untouched. It always takes a little bit of wiggling to get it all right. So don't be disheartened if you think it's not attaching perfectly the first time. That's fine. We can get it right and get it to lay where you want. There we go. Let's see, what do we reckon? Yep, that'll do perfectly. and I was slightly out with my scales, so I can take these and move these down a bit and just cover that join in the neck. There we go. That's more like it. Sorry, I know you can't see very well, but I'll hold it up to the camera. Can you see that? So the join I'm just starting to cover in scales. Okay. And go round in circles around the thing, basically. Now, I'm going to put it back on its side because I don't want it to fall at this stage. So making yourself a support on your tray is really useful. As long as you put it back on its right direction. A little bit brain dead, Carly, there, weren't you? There we go. Right. Back in place. Make sure it's supported. Make sure you're all right. Sorry, just doing a bit of wiggle because the arm came off. There we go. Right. Go around and attach scales round the head. So, it might... How can I do this so that you can see? Let's do it like that. So, I'm going round in a semicircle, attaching scales over that join line, and then we'll come, because we're going to use the scales as eyelids. So normally when I don't use scales, you have to make eyelids for it.
Your hedgehog says that looks so fiddly.
It really can be, which is why I like this tool. You can put a scale on the tip like that, and then get down the gaps to put it in place, and you'd fall off. See, it always works really well off camera, and then you go and do it on camera and it decides to not. There we go. I know this is not great viewing because I'm going into fiddly gaps, but if I don't get this, the other thing you can do, I've got a pair of tweezers. There we are. Tweezers.
And Charlie Star says, nice tip.
Right. Now, there we go. Sometimes just having the right tool is so useful. It's possible. I think that's what I've found. When I first started and I had no tools, I could still make stuff. It's gotten progressively easier with the right tools, if that makes sense. So the right tool for the job is really a useful thing. Right, now last one, and that will be, I might actually move this arm, take this arm off and put it back on after, once I've done the side of the face. That looks really scruffy, but it'll all be under the join there, just to make my life simpler. Then I haven't got to try and squeeze it in. I finally get the scale in place and put it upside down. Typical. There we go. That's it. Right, let's pick it up and give you a show. Can you see all around the base of the neck now has its first scale line in? So then you come back round and do the same again, next line up, and you're going to go all the way up past the forehead, because you get a bit fiddly when you get down to nose and eyes, but it is relatively straightforward. So once I've done the next line, I will pick it up and give you a quick show. Here, let's bring it round like this so you can see what I'm doing. Can you see the... Yeah, you can see that. It's so useful to have a camera. Whilst I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you all that today, for the first time, it's not just Twitch that I'm live streaming on. I am now live streaming on Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, Mixer and Smashcast. So hopefully that will help me build my audience. There are a lot more other platforms that is offered on the site that I'm doing the multi-streaming on. So over the weeks there will be more chat groups open up. Unfortunately, as far as we can tell, we can only share the Twitch conversation on the screen.
Hedgehog says, how do you judge how big to make the armature for the head and know how big it will be with the added clay and scales? And then also, wow, you're all over the web.
I'm getting there, yeah. There is experience to it. Unfortunately, that's a really annoying answer. But you do get more experienced and be able to visualize it. But it's not so critical that you get the perfect right size. If it's too small, you just add more clay. If it's too big, you can always tear off a bit and reshape. Also, if you think it's too small, you can add more tinfoil around it. So just fiddle until you get an idea.
Charlie Star says they can't find the YouTube stream. I'll see if I can find the link there.
My admin is having a look for the YouTube stream link as we speak, and we'll hopefully share that with you.
It says live stream offline, even though it is supposed to be sending data.
It's saying it's offline. Thank you for letting us know. Technical difficulties, I would see. So my brilliant admin is on to trying to work out where the YouTube live stream's gone. Now, one of the things that also came with experience of having lots of bad ones of these, you can get so engrossed in one part of what you're making that you don't notice that you're squashing another part. It's amazing how often that happens. I think if I hold it up, it'll be better to put it on. Up like this. Whoop, your nose has flattened a bit. See? These things can happen. So you've got to be aware of your whole piece and what you're doing with it, not just the bit you're working on.
Charlie Star says, not on your channel, just the past vids are up. Just thought you needed to know. Yeah, I didn't realise it.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. We really did need to know that. And my brilliant admin is working on it now. I seriously have no idea how people get through life without a Jamie. He does so much for me. He is awesome. And none of this would be possible without him. So I'm going through. Now, I could have brought the pink in to a point onto the forehead, but I didn't want to. I kind of want to solid purple the head. And again, because it's a dragon, there is no real definite animal out there for you to say this is what it looks like.
YouTube
so you can really make it what you want.
YouTube says live streaming will be enabled within 24 hours.
Oh, that's nice. YouTube has said, because we set it up today, it's going to take 24 hours to enable live streaming. So though it's showing us that it's live streaming, it isn't in fact doing so. Well done, YouTube. Well done.
Charlie Star says, you're right, Jamie is awesome. And Evil Monkey says, sounds like a metaphor for life. You've got to be aware of your whole piece and what you're doing with it. Words of wisdom right there.
It's amazing how wise I am, isn't it? Alright. Now, any stage you are getting a bit worried that you're going to squash things or that you can't handle it properly without causing breakages and things like that, just bake it. You can rework You can add clay onto baked clay, that's fine. The only thing is that you've got to make sure that when you bake it, you've got it in the position that you want, because you can't re-angle it once it's baked. It's hard. So on that respect, you've got to get it right. But it can save you from squashing your work, is all I'm saying. Just getting under here for that. I will put this down. I'm sorry, I've got to get it at an angle so I can see under the side of the cheek nearest to the vase, or I will ruin it. Now, on the glass of the vase, as you can see here, there are smudges of clay. Don't worry about that. You can, once you take the baked thing off, you can wipe it all off very easily if it's glass, as long as it's not a massively rough surface. If it is, then you might want to clean it down before you bake it. Right. It's an interesting added challenge to be making something from clay and having to make sure that it's showing on camera okay. Whoop, I really have distorted that nose. Wonder how I did that. It must have lent somewhere. There we go. That's a bit better. Bring you back out. So mistakes aren't terrible. They're so easy to rectify with this stuff. It's just a dream to work with. So I'm almost built up to the eyes now. I'd say the next line will do it, and then I'll show you how I get eyelids done for this, so it doesn't just look so shocked. So I'll just quickly go along, put this last line of scales in, and then I will be making it easier for you to see what's happening. So far we're getting there, like that. Now making sure that it doesn't fall off. Going along. Let's put you up, right, go like this. Now, so next Wednesday, I'm going to my twin sister's. I'm an identical twin, and she's holding the Boxing Day party this year, which is cool. She's got a really nice house, and I love my nephew. He's so funny. And all my family's going to be there, so it'll be really great. I really do love Christmas. I loved it a lot when I was well. And I used to go out and do the New Year's parties, or I would have people over. Like, I would hold I had about 15 to 20 people over to stay for about 4 days. And would just have a massive party like that.
When was this?
Back before I got ill.
So before I did meet.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to put two of the scales next to each other, so that they're touching, mould them in, and bring that edge out to a long flat edge. So what we're aiming for is the top line of an eyelid. So smooth them in together. There we go, like that. Then what you can do, so did you see that? So two scales smoothed in.
If you want to focus it, you have to give
Okay.
any kind of
Focus, please. There. I've joined two scales and smoothed the edge along. Yeah? So then what you're going to do, let's get it so you can see. Oop, like that. Now, I know my hand's in the way. I will move it in a second. Can you see I'm using...
No, because you're
No.
behind the...
Right, this way. There we go. I'm putting it in as an eyelid, that flat line. Okay? And I'm placing that before I place the others along that line to make sure that I've got it laying how I want in the directions that I want. There we go. That's a good top eyelid. So it's covering. Now, go around and then you go do the next one. So, 2 scales. Bring them together next to each other. Push them in. Put them flat on your finger. Smudge that joining line together. Push it down that way and bring it out so that it's a long flat eyelid. That's the face camera. There we go. That one. See?
Hold on.
Whoops, over here. There we go. Right. And then I'm going to put that one in place on the second top eyelid. Oops, you need some more scales to line it up. That eyelid is slightly further down, so I'm just going to put some more scales in so that there's not a big patch of purple. Okay. So I take it everyone's done their Christmas shopping already. I know there are those out there who literally leave it to the last minute, but the stress level on that is crazy. It's a big old risk, isn't it? So, more purple. Let's see. Where's the camera? There. Move this over here. I have seen punch-ups in shops around Christmas time. It's pretty crazy. So I don't recommend anyone leaving it that last minute. Right, I'm putting in my next eyelid. So again, shape it out right.
Every hedgehog says some of us have been ill.
Yeah.
Understandable.
If you've been ill, you shouldn't have to do any Christmas shopping. They should be part of the rules. Should be no judgment on health problemed people. Right, so I'm now I've got the 2 top eyelids in. Like that. So I'm going to fill in the space and start working up towards the snout. So same again, just keep going along the line, filling in with scales. I think the hardest part of making this dragon is making that many scales and not feeling like you want to faint from boredom. But once you got them, they actually go on pretty quick. Oh, dry throat. I will get a sip of drink in a minute. Right. Also, don't forget you're going to be going along the side of the bottom jaw. Now, once you're... Yeah, let's bring it down the middle of the nose and then it's easier to show what I'm talking about for this next bit. For the bottom eyelid. So I'm just filling that forehead. Yeah, there we go. Now, down this side. Trust me, I know I'm taking a while. it's worth me putting in all the bits first. If you don't get them on in lines, they look very haphazard. It's very hard to make them look uniform, and
Charlie
scales
Star
just
says,
are.
Off subject, have you heard any of the new guidance DWP gave to PIP decision makers?
Nope. And I'm going through a PIP appeal at the moment because they believe that I have no mobility scores and I can barely leave the house. So I question that. Now, what I'm going to do is for the bottom eyelid, I'm going to take a scale, flatten it, push the round bit on the purple side, this side, the darker purple side this time, into a long flat, and you want to point the corners. So pinch the corners and then flatten out. So you've got...
Charlie Star says, oh no, I've lost you, but I'm not sure what they mean.
Is the stream not working? Lost how? So we're making them into triangles like that. That's the face camera, I've got to remember this.
And you've also got to give me a second to focus.
That's a normal flat scale been turned into a triangle. Yeah? And what you're going to do is...
Apparently they managed to pause it.
Get the triangle and you're going to curve it into a little semicircle. That sort of shape. Yeah? And that's going to go under the eye. Now, what I've found is it's easy to make the top eyelid too flat to the head. So just use a needle tool or something pointy just to get underneath and lift the eyelid away a bit. Makes it look more realistic, and I'll show you the end result to that. Just using your needle tool to lift eyelids and shape them where you want them. I know this isn't good camera, I'm fiddling out the way, but I will show you what I'm doing. Here, got my needle tool. Let's see, can I see an eye? There we go, an eye. Lean that like that. I've got the needle tool, I'm going underneath and just lifting it. See? So then you end up with an eye that looks like that. So the scales are slightly non-uniform around the eye, but it lays brilliantly.
Joe Hedgehog suggests maybe an over-the-shoulder camera for next time.
That may also be a good idea. I think I need to get...
the closest we could get it.
I think we need to get a pole and work out best places for camera in. And so over the over the few weeks, I'm going to definitely be... Actually, it's one, isn't it? One and stretched out for the underneath of the other eyelid. I will be asking for opinions on new camera angles, on whether it's better or worse than what we were doing the week before. Again, flatten it down into a triangle. Make sure that there's points to the corners and rounded, so it's not a straight edge. Like that.
No, hold on. The closer you get it, the further
See?
the focus I have to
And
focus.
that goes under the
Joe
eye.
Hedgehog says, those eyes are really looking great.
Thank you. I'm pretty pleased with them. It's amazing what eyelids can do. It just takes it from creepy to looking spectacular. But unfortunately, it does take a bit of working out, which is not very easy to see on the camera. Right, what do you reckon? That way, there we are. he is definitely there that way.
It looks like one eye is slightly more open than the other to me.
It's possible.
Is that the camera or is that what it's like?
It might be what it's like on that. One eye is slightly more open than the other one. So you have a fiddle with your pointy tool and change the eyelids to how you want. That should be better. It's worth doing the time to fiddle to get them right. So I reckon that's where I want it. There we are. Like that. That's better, isn't it? Yeah? Right. Then you continue putting in the scales up the nose. But I always do the bottom jaw before I do the top jaw, because you're not liable to mess up the scales on the top jaw by accident that way. So just along the side, you're not covering the lips. It should be about one scale thick, but if your scales are too big, you can shrink them down by pushing.
Gorgeous. Do you scale his beak?
Yes, it's going all the way up to the tip of the beak, right the way up to its tip of its nose there. So, and again, that shouldn't take long. Whoops. But we do bottom jaw first before we do top jaw, because it lays easier. So when you get to the tip, bring it round and then start on the other side, going back again that way. Right, let's go like that. Sorry, this side I have to hold it so I can see it properly. There we go. 1, 2, right. One of those situations where it'd be really good if humans had just another pair of hands, just the one. You know, not be greedy about it. There. The bottom jaw. Can you see how I have... Oops.
In the way.
There we go. That way. And then that side. Like that. And then it goes round like that. And the tip is a white point.
Hedgehog says looking good.
Then you just got the top jaw. Then we're on to horns and nose, which is pretty simple actually. They don't take that long. But I tend to do those before I do the wings. I make the wings the last bit because they're usually quite ungainly and harder to get them to not make the dragon fall off the vase. So yeah, I do them last when I can lay it on its tray properly. But it's pretty good how quick the scales do go on your dragon. They look like they would take a lot longer than they actually do. And it's very therapeutic, but you have got to watch it, because the amount of times where I thought I'll just spend half hour on this clay project before I go and do something else, and then I blink and it's like 4 hours.
Fairy Hedgehog says, do you bake rest before you add the wings. And Evil Monkey says, is he or she going to have a tongue?
I'm going to do a tongue after I put the teeth in. I may have to do that off camera because it's going to be entirely fiddly. But before I go, I'm going to make the tongue so that I can show you how I made it. Right, I'm just going round.
Are you going to bake it before?
And the reason why I don't bake before I put the wings on is because you're going to be making them on florist wire, and then you've got to embed that through the body. And once it's baked, it's a bit of a difficult push through. So I always find I get a better bond when I bond raw clay to raw clay. I mean, you can bond dry baked clay to raw clay, but it's I find it not as good for very structurally used stuff that's under high pressure. So the wing, where it joins into the back, is taking a lot of weight, so I tend to try and make sure that I join it on before I bake it. And that's why I put florist wire in as well. For a dragon this size, I may end up using coat hanger wire. I think I probably will. But when I make my smaller dragons, florist wire does it fine. So I use that to join the head to the neck, the wings to the body, anywhere where I've got a very sort of heavy joint. It's worth sticking a bit of florist wire in. And it's so cheap, you might as well. It's that... Sorry. Just lifting up some of that scale from the bottom jaw. There we go, that's better. I had my scales laying wrong because the end of the bottom jaw didn't have one to mount on top of. Right, give me about 30 more seconds and we'll have these face scales on. If I did it so that the camera could see everything really well, I would be here for another half an hour because I can't see where I'm placing things. But I'm literally got the tip of the nose to do. So yeah, we're at that so far. So we're really almost there. And then we can do the horns, which I find really fun. But probably the tongue first. But I won't attach it in, I'll put it to one side. Because it's easier to put the teeth in before you put the tongue in. Because you then got to try and move the tongue out of the way. Right. Little bit more down here. This cough, man. Yeah, so it can be kind of fiddly, but I think really this one's worth the effort. Putting in the individual scales just looks so much better. Now, almost there. I think another 4 or 5 scales and we're there. Sorry, I'm at that bit where I've got to take it out of your eye line again. I will show it off. 2 scales left. There we go. 1. Right, last scale. There we go. Oop, don't fall off. I'm not sure how I feel about the new Mary Poppins. Do I go and see it? I loved the other one, even though Dick Van Dyke was really weird. There. Right, let's show off our new dragon face. So, Yeah? Looking good, eh? Now, let's not crush it by putting it down that way round. That would be useful. Right. Like that. Don't roll. No rolling. There we go. He's down and secured. Ish. I'll fiddle with that in a second. Right. Let's put him to one side. Now I think... What colour tongue? Dark purple? So if I mix some black in with some of this and make it a lot darker.
Fairy Hedgehog says, oh yes, and Evil Monkey says, wow.
Yeah. It comes together quick, doesn't it? I've done the scales. It only took several weeks. So this is a good example of colour mixing. You can get one colour, mix it with another colour. That might be a bit too much black. There we go. And it mixes up really well. So you don't just have the colour the clay comes in. And actually a lot of the quite professional clayers will only buy the primary colours in clay and then mix up all their own shades. They don't buy the pre-mixed shades. And I'm actually starting to think I might go that way myself. Because you do end up buying clay that sits there for ages, colours that I don't use very often, that I could just mix up a bit myself. I know how to do it, it's not difficult. This is a very dark purple. Maybe use that for something else, add a lot more purple to that because it's looking almost grey. The amount of time I mix up far too much because I'm adding bits to get it to the right shade that I want. So I keep a massive drawer unit at the back of my desk. That's what the cameras are clipped to, so you can't see it, unfortunately. But I keep all my different shades of mixed up colours in that.
Evil Monkey says, add a bit of the bright pink highlight.
Huh?
Evil Monkey says, add a bit of the bright pink highlight.
Yeah, that might be good. So if I use a pink scale into the mix, that will definitely... And what I could do is, there's always the possibility of just twist it together. Then, where's my blade? Under there. You will find on the inside, and you cut it open. Didn't take so much, but it's easy to do little swirls of colour. Jamie, focus.
Sorry.
Thank you. You see, there's already tiny swirls. Yeah? So you can put swirls of different colour in with your clay. You don't have to mix it fully and make it into a new shade, is what I'm saying. But I'm going to here because I think it needs that pink just to bring it back out a bit. There we go. Right, now for a tongue, you start out with a little ball. See? Now, first thing you're going to do, take a little pinch of it and just bring it out into a tiny point like that. Then you're going to, next to it, pinch out another little point the same sort of size, like that. So you've now got a little forked V. Yeah? Then this end, the thick bit, you then roll between your fingers and bring it out into a stick Now, that fork for the tongue is very wide, so you can use a needle tool or anything flat, and you're just going to push in that gap and bring it into more of a fork, more of a point. There we go. Right. One tongue. See? And then I would get my ball tool, push that, probably a bigger one actually. I would, yeah. Put that on like that, and then put that into the back of the mouth, and then stick it in. And once it's stuck in, you can then shape it into sort of waves or points or however you want to. Okay, now looking at the time, we're 6:30, so we've done an hour and a half already. Shall we call it an end today and we all go off and have a Christmas, and I do wings and horns next week? Yeah, and whilst off camera I'm going to put some teeth in its head and put its tongue in. So I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. If you can like and subscribe to any of my streaming channels, or Instagram, Facebook, follow, sorry, as well. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It all helps me. And any questions or comments, feel free to put it either under the videos or get in touch with me on Etsy or on Facebook, and I'm happy to answer anything I can. Have a great week, great fortnight even, and I'll see you later to do the wings. Okay. Bye everyone.